As Bitcoin has crashed by nearly 50% from its highs, a lot of people have been wondering, will Strategy be forced to sell their Bitcoin? And really, what would that mean for the price of Bitcoin, considering Strategy holds over 3% of the total supply? Well, Michael Saylor made an interesting appearance on CNBC this morning. Let's take a listen.
The concern, as you know, about Strategy itself, to the extent that there are worries within the Bitcoin community, is that, you know, if Bitcoin continues to fall, and I know you've made the argument that you have enough cash on hand to handle this for the next 2 years, that there could be a moment at which you have to sell, not buy.
Yeah, that's an unfounded concern. The truth is our net leverage ratio is half the typical investment grade company. We've got 50 years worth of dividends in Bitcoin. We've got 2.5 years worth of dividends just in cash on our balance sheet. So we're not going to be selling. We're going to be buying Bitcoin. I expect we'll be buying Bitcoin every quarter forever.
Just so we all understand, what is the price at which this story gets much more complicated for you and therefore the rest of the Bitcoin community? I think there's a sense that, given how large a player you are, if the price of Bitcoin were to fall to a place and continue to stay there for 2.5 years from now, and you were forced into a selling position, that unto itself could create a cascading problem.
Andrew, if Bitcoin falls 90% for the next 4 years, we'll refinance the debt.
Refinance where, Michael?
We'll just roll it forward. I mean, again,
but you think banks would lend to you at that point?
Yeah, because the volatility of Bitcoin is such that it's always going to be value. Look, you're at 68,000 right now. Literally has to fall to 8,000. Then we just refinance the debt. If you think it's going to zero, then we'll deal with that. But I don't think it's going to zero, and I don't think it's going to 8,000 either. But the credit risk is de minimis at this point.
Yo, you gotta love it. We did hear last week the CEO Strategy, Phong Le, I believe his name is. He was making the rounds. Actually, Nico was even saying this yesterday. Like, why did Saylor say that we could, you know, we won't get liquidated until 8K? That means they're going to dump the market to 8K. Now, Saylor comes out this morning. He's like, dude, we're literally never going to get liquidated. We're going to be buying Bitcoin forever. And it is very interesting. But the first point I want to make is it's super interesting that, first of all, it does seem like TradFi really doesn't, well, you could say either they don't understand Bitcoin or they willfully are ignorant to what Bitcoin is. And then further, you can see that a lot of people have a hard time understanding what it is Saylor's actually doing. Everyone just thinks he's buying a bunch of Bitcoin. All he wants to do is buy Bitcoin. If you watch this whole clip, it was 7 minutes. I wish I could put the whole 7-minute clip on there for you guys. He basically goes on to say the STRC product is the most interesting product. That's the revolutionary product. And now everyone is trying to really wrap their brain around what Saylor is doing, or rather what Strategy is trying to do. And it was funny when they're like, so who's gonna refinance your loans? He's like, dude, we got this. Like, yeah, they're going to refinance this. Everyone's trying to get into Bitcoin. So now it sounds like they have doubled down. They're like, we're never going to get liquidated. We're never going to sell Bitcoin. And obviously, as I was telling you guys the last time we covered a similar story, everyone was DMing me or tagging me on Twitter. It's like, yo, is Saylor getting liquidated? Obviously, as the price came down, everyone's like, oh, Saylor's going to get liquidated because of its average price is right around here. Now we all know, dude, if you don't understand what Saylor's doing, of course, people are going to say, like, one, he's running a Ponzi. Oh, he's going to get liquidated. It sounds like they structured their product, their debt, in such a way that there's no possible way of them getting liquidated. But also, it does feel like some peak bear market things. The FUD rolls out thick when the price of Bitcoin goes down. So Saylor quelling all the fears.
Yeah,
they're not going to sell.
I mean, I did call it when he mentioned when the CEO and again, he said it he did say it out of good intention, right? But like, that's the way the media work. It's like the Streisand effect, right? Like you're giving ammunition for people that work in media, traditional finance, to basically jump on that number, right? Saylor came out swinging. He came out confident. He came out knowledgeable. It seems like he's in complete control of the situation. He is a human being after all, though. Strategy's overall purchases are underwater. Their average purchase price is $76,000 per coin. We're at $69,800. But like the rest of us, I think he's gonna come out looking like a genius, and I think the guy is a genius. He's gonna come out looking like a genius in the next cycle. That's really what's gonna happen. Now, I hope that the next cycle, the next halving, I think, is in 28, I believe. I hope we don't make an all-time high before then, because that's what happened this cycle, and then we kind of had like this cycle where most of the performances happened in the early years, and we never had this kind of euphoric blow off top. And I think that had to do with the fact that you had the introduction of the Bitcoin ETF, and then kind of like the TradFi financialization of Bitcoin. But Saylor's coming out there like an absolute Chad, and he's basically saying like, look, like, we're very strongly positioned. We have a very strong cash position if worse comes to worse. If Bitcoin's price does dump, we're just going to refinance. Banks are going to go for it because it's attractive. Bitcoin's an attractive investment. And if it goes to zero, we're going to have to reassess. But I mean, that applies to the entire Bitcoin industry. If Bitcoin goes to zero, we are all going to have to reassess. So, he is placing his bet, like the rest of us, on the future price appreciation of Bitcoin and the performance of Bitcoin. And, you guys have heard the theories throughout the years, the bullish case for Bitcoin, but all the amazing, the Bitcoin Standard, all the amazing books and material that has been written over the years. You guys have seen it. You guys have read it. The case is there, the thesis is there, but one thing is the case there, and one thing the thesis being there, and then the other thing is it actually playing. Is it actually going to play out the way that we think it's going to play out? And I truly believe it does. I truly believe it will. I think Bitcoin's the best money the world has ever seen. I think it's the most pristine collateral the world has ever seen. It has the best characteristics. It has absolute scarcity. I think we're on the verge of the United States government announcing that they have been accumulating Bitcoin for their strategic reserve. We covered that on yesterday's episode. I think right now we're in a place of uncertainty, and this might be unpopular with the audience, but I've been telling you guys my opinion since October. I think you and Walker owe me an apology, TBH.
It ain't over till it's over.
But I think we're going to head into more uncertainty. I think we're going to head into more pain. To be perfectly frank with you, I think we're going to hit the 200-day moving average, which is around 55K.
It's weak, bro. You always say day. 200 week.
200 week. Thank you. Bitcoin has historically always done this in bear markets. I think this bear market is no different. I think we're going to wick to those levels. Of course, this is an opinion, not trading advice, not financial advice. And then Bitcoin's going to pick up like it always does, and the cycle's going to restart. And, we did have this amazing, to be frank, it was an amazing performance by Bitcoin over this 3-year time period, where it went from $16,000 to $126,000. Like, that return is absolutely incredible on a 3-year time scale. And now we're kind of having a little bit of a hangover year, and I don't think that hangover year is over. So I think Saylor is going to feel more pressure. I think the smaller treasury companies that took out bad debt, perhaps. I think some of them are going to capitulate. Some of them are going to sell Bitcoin. We've already seen this from some of the Bitcoin treasury companies. And the nature heals itself, right? The inefficient miners are going to go out of business. The efficient miners are going to stay in business. The inefficient companies are going to go out of business. The efficient companies are going to stay in business. and then the Bitcoin cycle repeats itself. It's just history going all over again. And Saylor, as being the figurehead of this movement, specifically with Wall Street and traditional finance, he's getting he's getting the majority of the flack for it. Luckily for us, he's extremely well spoken, and he makes very solid arguments, and he's not even allowing them to frame the questions in certain lights. Like, you've seen this in multiple interviews. Like, shout out to Danny Knowles and the What Bitcoin Did podcast. Like, Danny had some balls to ask him some really hard questions on that interview that he did with him. And Saylor, what he did was he didn't allow the framing of the question to be asked, right? I personally would not have done that myself. But Danny was an incredible interviewer, and he did his job. I really recommend watching that interview. And then also Legacy Media, right? So Legacy Media, they're experts at these. These are professionally trained journalists that work in the traditional financial markets, and they cover the traditional financial markets. So they're like trained to ask these really hard hitting questions that are meant to catch you on your back foot, right? And it's very easy to pile on Michael Saylor and pile on strategy when the price of Bitcoin's going down. Like, he explained it himself. And for anyone who doesn't know what strategy is basically like a levered play on Bitcoin. So if the price of Bitcoin goes down, strategy is going to probably go down 2 or 3 times as much. If the price of Bitcoin goes up, the price of Bitcoin is going to go up 2 to 3 times as much, right? That's basically how the treasury companies are going to function, specifically the bigger ones like 21, which of course has CEOs Jack Mallers, and then the backing of Tether and SoftBank, huge backers. And then of course the big daddy, which is Strategy, the OG, the first one, which has an ungodly amount of Bitcoin. So of course they're going to get him on TV, and they're basically going to try to get him to admit that, hey, listen, are you going to be forced to sell your Bitcoin? Number one reason, that makes good TV, right? Because imagine if he said, yeah, we might be that is breaking news all around the world. But Saylor held his ground, and most importantly, he didn't allow himself to be framed, right? He's like, look, that's a ridiculous notion. We're very well capitalized. We can continue paying these dividends for many, many, many years. Bitcoin would basically have to go to zero for us to be in any type of financial trouble. And here's the thing: I think anybody watching this show, anyone who has a business in the space, you're probably betting that Bitcoin doesn't go to zero. I would be extremely surprised. I think it's impossible. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. The OGs that are watching this show, I did not say that. I think it's highly unlikely for Bitcoin to go to $8,000. That price is just way too low. I think that we can see high 30s, mid 40s, 50s for sure. But anything below that, there would have to be some type of black swan event. 25K, the lowest of the low, and it will only wick there for a very short amount of time. Again, I could be totally wrong here. It doesn't line up with previous cycles. You always have to account for that 80% drawdown, and it's that 80% drawdown puts you roughly at 25K, right? So I just don't see it going below those prices. But that's when things are going to be tested. I think strategy shouldn't be the one that should be being called into question out of all of them, right? Strategy is the best positioned. It's the strongest, right? It's really these smaller treasury companies that are going to be the ones that are going to go bottoms up way before strategy. 21, way before that, the backers of 21, it's like, come on now. Strategy, again, that's so much Bitcoin, they're not going anywhere. But these smaller treasury companies, on the other hand, I mean, you've already kind of seen some of them already announced that they're selling Bitcoin, right? So yeah, I could see them going under, and it's really interesting. This article came out. We'll show your bit after this, after my take, but Just leave it on screen. I think it looks pretty cool with the numbers on the side. But Strategy came out. I mean, Bitcoin Magazine, our friends over at Bitcoin Magazine, released this article right after the Squawk Box interview, and I love the headline for all the audio listeners. We're not selling. Strategy's Michael Saylor doubles down on Bitcoin buys, and I'm going to read you some of the quotes here. We're not going to be selling. We're going to be buying Bitcoin. I expect we'll be buying Bitcoin every quarter forever. Then, of course, what I was saying earlier, that's just an unfounded concern. Again, that's just Saylor reacting to a lot of the criticism and better said, the framing of the questions. And then it continues to say, if you got a time horizon less than 4 years, you're not really a capital investor. I agree with that. I think if you buy Bitcoin at this point, you got to have at least a 4-year mindset minimum. Unless you buy the absolute bottom, and most people don't buy the bottom. Most people buy near the top when they get into Bitcoin. So anyways, I'm going to pass it on to you, Opti. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That's my take on all this, dude. I think Saylor handled it perfectly, and he just put, you know, his, I can't say this. We're a professional show now. You know, he showed up. He showed up. They don't call him Chad Saylor for no reason. He showed up. He put him in his place. He removed any type of uncertainty, any type of insecurity. And he basically said, look, we're in a strong position. We have no intention of selling. In fact, we're going to buy more. And you guys are just giving me shit because the price of Bitcoin's going down. But this is all part of it. Volatility, what does Saylor always say? Volatility is a gift towards the faithful, you know? So if you're an investor in Bitcoin, right now, historically speaking, it's one of the best times to buy. Also, if you want kind of a little bit of a more levered play, we're spot Bitcoin people here at Simply Bitcoin. But if you want more of a levered play on Bitcoin in general, again, this could potentially be a great time to buy MicroStrategy. I think Strategy under $100. I think Strategy under $100 is like a no-brainer in my opinion. Like $50 Strategy, I'm looking at that and I'm like, that looks nice. If I were buying stocks and not Bitcoin.
Yeah. Big if. Okay. Yeah. So I was just pulling up the strategy dashboard here. And as you heard in the clip, Saylor said, hey, look, we don't have to sell any Bitcoin. We don't even have to raise any money right now, and we could still last for 2.5 years. And you can see very clearly on the dashboard, they have $2.25 billion in reserves, and they only need to pay annual dividends of $887 million. So I find it very interesting that, yes, the price is, you know, where we've corrected a little bit. The price is going down and the FUD comes out. And like Nico said, since Saylor is basically the face of the Bitcoin treasury play, he has been the, for lack of better terms, kind of like the corporate spokesperson for Bitcoin. He's been talking to all the banks, all the asset managers, the sovereign wealth fund holders, even the nation state level Bitcoin treasure, or strategic Bitcoin reserve. And I think that's why he's getting a lot of the FUD right now. They're placing it at his feet because he has been such an outspoken spokesperson for Bitcoin. And obviously, you know, he's a billionaire, so that's the type of people they put up on Squawk Box. But it is interesting that it almost feels like the meme is playing out in real time. We're just early to it. And the meme I'm talking about is, you know, Bitcoin goes to $1 million. It crashes to $750,000 and everyone says it's over. Bitcoin basically did that exact same thing. Just, you know, what's a magnitude of 10 smaller. It goes to 100 something K. It drops down to 60, 70 K and everyone's like the world's ending. So while Nico was going, it kind of made me think that if you haven't been around in Bitcoin for a long time, then all of the FUD and all of the headlines, they might catch you, you know, off guard. They might catch you. You might get blindsided by them because you're not used to this playing out. I've been in Bitcoin for, I don't even know how long, since 2017. So been here for 3 dumps. And every single time this happens. Now, last year was very interesting because it was a bear year. It was a negative year. And we got no Bitcoin obituaries. And it feels like the year has just started. And since Bitcoin corrected at the beginning of the year, you're getting a lot of the FUD come out very quickly. Like, oh, let's jump on this. This is a headline story. This is a financial story that we need to cover. Anyways, I say all that to say that it does feel like on a proportional level, we're not really seeing that much FUD, but since the price has gone so high, you are seeing maybe, you know, more headlines come out and saying, oh, it's over this time. So it does seem like it's becoming louder than ever. But I think on a percentage basis, it's probably less than we've seen in the past. It's just, it seems like a lot right now because like there's really not that much going on. You know, we're in a bear market. The price doesn't feel that good. So anytime you see these headlines, like Nico said, it's like, it's good television. It's like, okay, Bitcoin's dumping. Let's talk about the crash. What is a good FUD story? Oh, maybe Saylor's going to have to sell that Bitcoin and then it's going to crater the price even more. That's really what I feel is going on. And also I noticed if you watch the whole clip, Joe Kernan wasn't in that whole bit there. And we all know Joe Kernan is the best Bitcoin podcaster out there. And I thought the lady was, I forget what her name is, but I thought she was starting to come towards the Bitcoin kind of side here. We all know, you know, Sorkin, he's a huge Bitcoin hater. We could go into his connections and backgrounds, but he's a fiat maxi by all intents and purposes. But Joe Kernan was nowhere to be found in that because I'm guessing, again, tinfoil hat, I'm guessing maybe they're like, we're not even going to put Joe Kernan on here because we want to try to stick it to Saylor here. And Saylor's like, yeah, we'll just refinance our debt. Like, dude, yeah, of course we're going to be able to roll it over.
He didn't even accept the framing. Like, he was like very matter of fact. Like, you know, this is how things are going to work out. This is how things are going to play. And I think it's a good thing, man, because whether people like it or not, you know, Saylor going out there and his words on TV will have a material impact on the price of Bitcoin. Like if Saylor butchered that interview, Bitcoin would have dumped, right? Like people are, you guys have to understand that. Like Saylor is the representation of Bitcoin in Wall Street. That's how he positioned his company. And Wall Street at Bitcoin right now, as we read from that Jack Mallers thread yesterday, it was very interesting. Bitcoin right now, as things stand, is behaving like a tech stock. Like that's how investors on Wall Street are treating it, even though it's not, even though we know it's neutral money. I would say it's more of a commodity. It's a money and a commodity, and it's like, you know, it's Bitcoin. But the market is treating it like a risk on tech stock. That's how the market is treating Bitcoin right now. So, you know, until that changes, you know, but I think we're going to continue to see those types of interviews, and Saylor's going to be painted out as a villain. But there was one thing that was really interesting when he was talking, bro, and he pointed it out. Like, dude, we were at all-time highs 4 months ago. Like 4 months ago. Like,
feels like a lifetime ago.
It is a lifetime ago in Bitcoin. Like 4 months in Bitcoin is like a long ass time. Like you age like if 4 months is like the equivalent of like 2 years in non-Bitcoin world.
It's like Interstellar.
Yeah, right. Relative. It's like it closer you are to the Bitcoin black hole, you know, time just slows down on, and then in fiat world it's accelerating. Maybe it's the opposite. But anywho,
wait. I want to add one last thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure a lot of people out there, you know, maybe you're a newer Bitcoiner. If you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, like I know some of you guys in the chat, you guys have been around as long as I've been or even longer. And so this is like nothing new to us. We're just like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know, hey, again, you know, you guys were shitting on me last week. A couple people pop in like, look at these idiots. They called the top and, you know, or they thought they were going to get more bullish. And it's like, yeah, I was wrong on where the price was going this year or last year. Sorry. And it's just like, it is what it is. You know, Bitcoin's down. Cool. It's on discount. But for newer people, I think the real signal here if you really want to kind of get a takeaway besides just like the entertainment FUD, you know, cortisol spikes, dopamine receptors firing from that clip, the real takeaway I think from this is not just battling the FUD with your friends and family. We're all going to be dealing with that. You know, I was getting texts from my dad when it crashed to like 60K, and he's doing the like, you'll be okay, you know, the price will come back. And in my head, I don't even know if I responded to it. Like literally, I think I just kind of ignored the text. But because I've been here for so many times, I understand this process. You know, I understand the psychology of being in Bitcoin and what it does to you. But the real takeaway here for the newer people that haven't been around for a dump like this and thought it was going to go to the moon is like, okay, hey, we were wrong. Let's adapt to reality. Where are we currently? Yes, you can have these arguments with your friends and family if you want to. Personally, I avoid them as much as possible. I just double down and get even more bull-tarded than ever. I'm like, just buy it now. It's going to go up. Anyways, I say all that to say, it's like, what is Saylor actually doing right now? He is continuing to buy Bitcoin. He's basically, you know, lowering his cost average on Bitcoin. And that's what everyone should be doing right now. If you did buy the top, if you got it in 2025 at about above 100K, then you don't just sit here and deal with the FUD and you go on Twitter and you start rage baiting people or you start crashing out. The real strategy here is, and no pun intended, is basically just continue to accumulate Bitcoin. Your average cost, you know, price of the Bitcoin that you acquire will go down. When it recovers, like we all know it will, you're going to be in a good place. You know, Saylor is just constantly doing this. I'm sure he's trying to accelerate this. I really do believe that Saylor probably has some info behind the scenes that none of us have, and that's why he's been so frantically buying Bitcoin. So that is the takeaway here. That's what you should be doing. You should be continuing to buy Bitcoin. Ignore the FUD. The FUD's coming out. It's a bear market. That's just kind of how it works. But you just double down on it. Keep buying, keep accumulating. Let your family say whatever you want. As the other classic Bitcoin meme is you're basically you're looked at like an idiot for about 3 years. And then only in 1 year or it's really only in a couple of months do you get looked at like a genius from your family. This is when your stripes are earned. We've all done it. You'll do it. The new people will most likely do it that come into Bitcoin. The next cycle or all-time high happens and we got a correction. This is just the process. This is what it means to be a Bitcoiner. As I always like to say, you know, the HODL meme is easy. Like it's simple to say, rather. Sorry. The HODL meme is simple to say, but it's not easy because it really does mess with you. You got to continue to buy Bitcoin. Do not necessarily just listen to what Saylor says. Do as he does. Continue to acquire Bitcoin and everything will be good. Anyways, enough motivational opti.
No, I mean 100%. I mean, but like it's interesting, dude, because it's like he's having those conversations, like the same conversations that you and I had in our living rooms with like our parents and like our family friends and like perhaps our loved ones. Like he's having those conversations with Wall Street. Like he's having those conversations with the legacy
super
media,
publicly,
right? Like it's like public for the world to see. But in essence, like if you break it down to the core of what he's doing, it's essentially the same exact thing that we were all doing, just on a much smaller scale, which is obviously, but which is essentially being evangelists of Bitcoin, right? Standing up for Bitcoin, saying I believe in Bitcoin for the future, basically being called an idiot, right? Basically being questioned, right? And then it's no different fundamentally. The only difference, guys, that I would say is that it's on it's much more public, right? It's much more public. It's on live TV. If you haven't been on live TV, if you haven't done live things, it's very easy to mess up. As you guys have probably see every single day, me and Opti just.
What? No, I don't mess up.
Yeah, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. But you said
I mess up every day.
We're pretty good. But it's a lot harder when you're live and you're put on the spot to answer some difficult questions. The only way you're able to do that like really, really well or like very successfully is if you fundamentally know your shit and fundamentally believe in your shit. those two things. If you don't believe in what you're talking about, and if you don't know exactly what you're talking about, and you're pressed up against a wall and you're doing it live, you will run out of things to say. Like you just won't do a good job. So obviously Saylor knows his shit, and obviously Saylor 100% believes in the future price appreciation of Bitcoin, as of course we do here at Simply Bitcoin. And I could never have imagined me saying this, because I'm a spot Bitcoin guy. I'm a self-custody guy. I will continue to be a self-custody guy. At the end of the day, the mission here is, the separation of money and state. The way that we do that is millions upon millions of individuals taking self-custody of their Bitcoin. However, it is going to be very, very tempting not to smash buy $50 MicroStrategy, right? Like seeing $50 MicroStrategy is like, damn, bro, like, that looks nice, right? Of course, not like a tiny percentage of the stack, but anywho,
dude, you just go all in and you buy the bottom and you sell the top, right?
No.
I'm trolling.
But I mean, like, bro, just $50 strategy would be so tempting. It'd just be so
dude,
tempting.
one share, generational wealth.
I don't know about that, but it would be so tempting. I'm just saying. Anywho, guys, it's gonna be a great show. We got a lot of stuff lined up for you guys. Over 500 live viewers on YouTube alone. Shout out to the Rumble audience coming in strong. Shout out to the X audience. If you guys are enjoying today's show, Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched Bitcoin live show on planet Earth, make sure to smash that like button. It's going to be a great show. Like I said, we got so many things lined up for you guys, so much news. We got a clip of Scott Bessent, and then during the news, we're going to change it up a little bit today because the news cycle was a little bit slow today. I have a clip of the one, the only, the legendary Andreas Antonopoulis, who, man, it's so sad that
we wouldn't be here without.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here without Andreas. Like, for me as a content creator, Andreas was basically the inspo. Like, his lectures, he would do them off the dome, right? Like, he would go in front of Parliament. He would go in front of, just in like a stage in front of it, like 2,000 or 3,000 people watching him live, and he would just pace and just talk about Bitcoin. And in that moment in time in Bitcoin's history, there was no Bitcoin content. It's part of the reason I started Simply in 2020. There was no Bitcoin content. Like, it did not exist. So, it's pretty crazy, looking back to these old Andreas clips and seeing how much of this turned out to be true. So we're going to be talking about that during the news. And then the culture segment, Opti's got some tricks up his sleeve, which I'm really excited to talk about as well. So we're going to be right back in just a little bit, and then we'll get to the numbers. Let's check it out, everybody. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 69,100. I kind of like this one better, Opti. No, which one's the one? This one. I like this one. This one looks nice. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 69,360. Sats per dollar, 1,442. Block height, 935,936. Realized monetary inflation, 0.83%. Market cap, 1.39 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 4.63%. Percentage issued is 95.17%. In the grand scheme of things, we're just getting started. If Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold, that's $1.7 million per coin. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a good amount. Anyways, I have a clip of Scott Bessent. Man, this is one of my favorite Treasury secretaries. Like, we went from Janet Yellen, one of Opti's exes, to Scott Bessent, and major upgrade in all the different ways. Again, he's just a huge advocate of Bitcoin. Critical of just government, like irresponsible government spending. And again, once again, he comes out to talk about the Clarity Act. So we played you guys a clip last week where Senator Cynthia Lummis, the Bitcoin senator, was asking Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, about the Clarity Act, how important it is for it. Scott Bessent is part of the executive branch, so he represents the Trump administration. And again, this is a great indication that the Trump administration is still 100% behind the Bitcoin and crypto ecosystem and industry as a whole. And they still have every intention of passing the Clarity Act. Now, the only question is, and this is what I was kind of like a little bit, I don't know what the correct word is for this, a little bit hesitant, is I don't know if they have enough votes. Like, I don't know if they have enough I don't know if they have those 60 votes in the Senate to get this thing passed. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to play you guys the clip, then we'll talk about it. Let's check it out.
Quick on this crypto legislation that seems to be hung up in the Senate. Secretary, do you expect that the Clarity Act will, in fact, come back for a markup? And why are we having a debate about bank margins? Where do you stand on this? Do you think crypto platforms should be able to pay rewards, pay customers for moving stablecoin or money out of traditional bank deposit accounts and keep them on crypto platforms? Where are you on that issue?
Again, Maria, I think what we're seeing in the crypto market over the past few months means more than ever that the U.S., we need market structure, we need clarity, and we need to get this across the line this spring. We got a few recalcitrant actors who said, well, it'd be better to have no legislation than the legislation we don't want. And I think both on the banks, the other crypto firms are united against them. So we need to get this across the line. The U.S., under President Trump's leadership, the U.S. is becoming the crypto capital of the world with our best practices, best regulation. And for crypto to remain a viable digital asset and move forward, we need to get this Clarity Act done.
So you think it will be? It'll come back fairly soon then?
I'm optimistic, and there's bipartisan support here.
Okay, so key word that he said there in terms of the bipartisan support, that is necessary. That is 100% necessary. They need 60 votes in the Senate to overcome the filibuster. The Genius Act had bipartisan support. I think it ended up with 67 votes total. But again, because of the bipartisan nature of it, there needs to be some type of compromises, where I think Scott Bessent a little bit kind of downplayed those compromises. Is what are those compromises? Another thing also too is the banking industry came out as if their life depended on it, and basically they really don't want people taking out their deposits and putting it with alternatives. We're kind of in this revolutionary era right now in finance, and it's not just because of Bitcoin. We have to be open here. It's because of the stablecoin revolution, right? Stablecoins have been adopted on a worldwide scale. In some countries, they're essentially being used like as money on a regular basis. And the reality is that banks in the United States are absolutely terrified that people take their money out of the banking system and they start to go and use alternatives. So they leave their money on platforms, on ramps, or they leave their money on stablecoin. They just leave their money in stablecoins, right? Like, I know, I'm not going to dox anybody, but I know people that literally just use Cash App as their bank account, as their banking system, because they don't even want to open a traditional bank account, right? And again, these banks make money by holding your money. They take your money, they lend out your money. Back in the day, they used to pay you interest for that. They still technically pay you interest for that, but the interest is minuscule. So they're absolutely terrified of Coinbase or of some of these stable coins offering you interest, because if they offered you interest, all of a sudden you're not really incentivized to leave your money in a JP Morgan Chase or a Bank of America, because not only do they not pay you the interest, they actually charge you a monthly maintenance fee if your balance is below a certain amount. So check this out. Not only do you give them your money, they make money off of your money. They charge you so that you have the privilege of them being able to hold your money. That doesn't make sense. And instead of the banks competing, which is how the free market is supposed to work, what they're doing is that they're putting pressure on government to basically say, no, we don't want this competition, right? So essentially, if the Clarity Act has basically been that is the main point of contention in the Clarity Act right now, as I understand. And another thing that I'll say as well is, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, really what I care about is if the Clarity Act is going to protect the right to self-custody. If we get that into legislation, I think that is a massive victory for our industry. As a Bitcoiner, as someone who is, a spot Bitcoin maxi, I don't own any Bitcoin, but, spot Bitcoin maxi, and self-custody maxi. Of course, I don't hold any Bitcoin in self-custody, but if I did, that's how I would do it. Again, that is the piece of legislation that I'm looking for, because even if the political pendulum swings back, they can't really retract that. They can't really walk that back once that's in law, right? So that's really what I'm looking for in the Clarity Act. Of course, it's going to give a lot of confidence to Bitcoin businesses in the United States. It's going to provide, it's in the name, clarity, regulatory clarity, for a lot of Bitcoin businesses to, do what they need to do. Because right now it's kind of been this patchwork of every state has different regulations, and then some states don't regulate this way, and then another state regulates that way. But there's no really rules of the road, standard set in place. It's kind of like this piecemeal patchwork system that's kind of been put together, and that creates situations like, you know, the whole prime trust situation, where essentially, you know, this trust that is supposed to offer, you know, all these types of protections to consumers basically, you know, comes out and says, oh, we actually lost all that Bitcoin in self-custody. It creates situations where, you know, one of the people that they hired to custody all that Bitcoin on behalf of the U.S. Marshal Service, their son goes on Discord and is like, actually, you know what? I have dad's Bitcoin in my self-custody wallet on my ledger. You know, and that, of course, that's Bitcoin that's supposed to belong to the American people. So again, I think that Clarity Act is really important. And then it goes back to Trump's agenda. Trump's agenda, as he said many, many times, is make the United States the Bitcoin capital of the world, the AI capital of the world. And the reason he wants to do that is because he believes that if the United States doesn't take a leadership role in that, other countries will step in and take that leadership role. So he's looking over his shoulder, looking at Russia, looking at China, and he wants the United States to be the undisputed, you know, leader in, you know, in this type of innovation. So let's see if the Clarity Act gets passed. Opti's like cracking up, and I want to know why.
Yeah, the chat. Oh man, sorry guys, sorry. The chat's losing it over you saying that you don't hold any Bitcoin.
I don't hold
any Bitcoin. Yeah, we don't hold any Bitcoin. We lost it.
Why would anyone think that I hold Bitcoin?
Yeah, we just like to talk about it. Anyways, you know,
I'm serious. I don't know why. Like, that's kind of fucked up. Like, why would you think I hold Bitcoin?
Yo, people. Oh man. All right. Anyways. Do you hold Bitcoin? No, not at all. I just talk about it. There is an update though here, so we will get at least a little. I don't want to say an update, but we will be getting, I guess, you know, the conversation will go further later today. So there will be a meeting later today. Hold on, let me swap this. So Eleanor Terrett, again, doing really good journalism. She goes, the White House will host representatives from the banking and crypto industry this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. So basically right when the show ends, they'll be holding a meeting for the second iteration of the stable coin yield negotiations. Again, that, as we've all heard, is basically the one thing that's been holding up this Clarity Act is about stablecoin yields, or at least that's what the narrative is. Anyways, one thing I did see is that they're just going to have like representatives there. And so the banks set to attend will be Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi, PNC Bank, and US Bank, along with trade groups, Bank Policy, ABA Bankers, and ICBA, which is independent community banks. Some of the crypto attendees include I am Paul Grewal of Coinbase, Miles Jennings of A16Z, and Summer Mersinger of Blockchain Association. Wow, that's not the best representation for the Bitcoin industry here. But anyways, according to the two sources familiar with the matter, attendees received an email from the White House yesterday emphasizing the need to come prepared for today's discussions with serious proposals and a willingness to compromise. So later today, or maybe tomorrow morning, we will probably get some news coming out of this. I guess we'll get some form of resolution, or at least we'll see whether the negotiations are stalled or whether there's a compromise. And usually by compromise, it means both sides are probably not going to be that happy coming out of this. So we'll see what happens. There is a meeting later today on the books. I don't know. At this point, I'm not really holding my breath, and I might kind of disagree with Scott Bessent Scott Bessent on the only thing holding up the Bitcoin, or the only thing pushing down the Bitcoin price, is that we haven't pushed Clarity Act in. I just think, you know, market sentiment's bad and people thought the 4-year cycle was happening, so they sold out, and now they're waiting for a bear market before they get back in. That's probably my one contention against Scott Bessent. But again, we'll see. Hopefully something comes out of this. Hopefully some good news will come out of this tonight. We'll see what happens. Anyways, that's the last update.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, it's gonna be a great show. Like I said earlier, we're gonna be playing a clip of Andreas Antonopoulis.
Dude, what? All these years and don't hold Bitcoin? I'm out of here.
Yeah, you guys didn't know me and Opti don't hold Bitcoin?
Yo.
Why is that surprising?
Wow.
We've been very we've been very steadfast about this position.
Oh man.
Of course we don't hold
Anyways,
Bitcoin. Why would we hold Bitcoin? Why would we hold Bitcoin?
Dude.
We're fans of Bitcoin.
Bro, just keep it moving. Keep it moving.
So anyways, guys, we're going to be right back in just a sec. We're going to check out some clips from the one, the only Andreas Antonopoulis. Stay tuned. And then we got the culture segment coming up.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY. All right, everybody, if you go to bitkey.world today, get yourself a BitKey hardware wallet. Is that promo? I think we got to update that promo, Opti.
No, I think that's the new one. Simply 99.
Simply 99?
Yeah. That's the new one.
How much does it get off? What percentage?
I don't know. Instead of $150, it's $99.
So instead of $150, it's $99 if you use promo code simply99. Right? So that's 33% off.
Your math's better than mine.
So you get roughly 33% off. Yeah, like 30-something% off. That's a big discount.
You get $50 off. $50 off instead of 20%.
$150, you get a third off.
Yes, that is math.
So you get 1/3 off if you use promo code simply99. This is literally the easiest hardware wallet to use on the market without sacrificing security. It has multi-sig built in. It has inheritance built in. And breaking news, if you use promo code simply99, you get 1/3 off the, that's funny. You get 1/3 off the purchase price. So instead of it being $150 at retail, you can buy it for $99. That's a heck of a discount. So anywho, let's play this clip of the one, the only Andreas Antonopoulis, again, kind of foreshadowing, predicting some things that would happen. Let's check out the clip.
The problem is we are going to a digital currency society where cash will be gradually eradicated, either through non-use or a lot of countries and a lot of governments are trying to actively ban it. So they're putting limits on how much you can use cash. Say, $1,000, and if it's more than $1,000, using cash is illegal. When we go to this society, we have to really think about the implications. Do we want a society in which our digital money is under complete surveillance and complete control, where if you go to the wrong protest, or if you support the wrong political campaign, or if you make a payment to the wrong person or receive money from the wrong person, suddenly your money disappears. It's no longer yours anymore. It's frozen, it's seized, it's gone. And someone has control of that. Corporations, banks, governments, and in most cases, there is no difference between corporation, bank, and government, right? And so that's one scenario. And the other scenario is one in which individuals control their money. And it is digital money, but it's digital cash like Bitcoin, where you can pay an individual from one person to another, just like I can with cash today, without any other party getting involved. What really strikes me as amazing is that we've gotten used to this idea so quickly, which is that we no longer pay people. We no longer pay people directly. The less we use cash, the more we pay people through a corporation, right? So from tipping your valet to tipping your taxi driver to tipping wherever, tipping is pretty much the last remaining part of our society where cash is used to pay from one person who is not an incorporated entity to another person who is not an incorporated entity. Everything else you have to pay through a corporation, whether it's a bank, right? Whether it's Venmo, whether it's PayPal, whether it's any of those things. And we've gradually gotten used to this environment where we can't pay another person unless there's a corporation involved. And that's astonishing to me. And as cash disappears, that then becomes a final fact, that every single payment in your life will be from you to a corporation.
And that corporation takes a piece of that, every single thing.
And not just that, it doesn't just take a piece, it also controls and surveils and monitors your use. And if you violate the terms and conditions, you are destitute.
Wow.
So the issue is not what we have today versus the digital currency of the future or Bitcoin or whatever. It's both futures are digital currency, and in both futures, cash will no longer exist. That is inevitable. We are going down that road, and now we have to choose. Do we go to the digital cashless society of corporate control over money with the complete and total merging of corporate and state money, where instead of having separation of state and money, you have the merging of state and money and corporation and money, where your money is branded money? You have Chase dollars, you have Goldman Sachs dollars, you have Coca-Cola dollars, right? You have money that is controlled by a corporation. Or do we go down the other future, where we have money that is basically an internet protocol that is completely global, that any person can pay any person, they meet in the streets without any corporations getting involved, just from me to you, digital cash. And that's really it's a less optimistic view, because I'm fully aware of what the other future is, and it's already playing out. And it is in my opinion, a very dangerous future.
So, I mean, what's really crazy about this is, like, you're hearing this now and you're like, Nico, duh, like what is this? This is not breaking news. This was before the effing pandemic. This was before the Canadian truckers protest. This is when Joe Rogan, this was before Joe Rogan was tapped on the shoulder and not asked to bring Bitcoiners on his show, right? This was back in 2016.
Allegedly.
Why hasn't he brought on Saylor? Why hasn't he brought on Mahler?
He doesn't want to talk to
Why
Saylor.
hasn't he brought on Saifedean?
He doesn't want to talk to him.
Oh, and he just wanted to talk to Andreas about the same things?
Yeah.
What has changed? What has changed from then and now?
He wants to talk about, I don't know, DMT or something else.
I don't know, man. I think it's awfully suspicious, my friend. So a lot of these predictions, these prophecies that Andreas said essentially came true. Canadian truckers protest. They are trying to get rid of cash. CBDCs, you are destitute. You are a slave. And that's exactly what the European Union is trying to do right now with the digital euro, right? They're moving full steam ahead on all this stuff. And there's political factions in the United States that want to do this as well. Mind you, this was 2016. This was a decade ago, 10 years ago. And he told you exactly what's going to happen. And then you have Larry Fink on TV talking about tokenizing the world and tokenizing property and tokenizing this and tokenizing that. That if they are tokenizing stocks and all these things, that means they can freeze them, right? So Ah, man. I want to get your takes on this, Opti. I feel like you're going to go harder in the paint than I am. I'm a little bit more.
I like this comment. Go on the show and tell them you want to talk about aliens, but then rug pull and talk about Bitcoin. That's the way. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Yeah. So someone in the chat asked, what year was this? Nico, I don't know if you know for sure. Was this a 2016 episode? Because he's been on a few times. First one, 2013. That was episode 466. I'm looking at Perplexity right now. I AI'd this. I Google searched this or web searched it basically. And then episode 490 is 2014. Episode 581 was also 2014. And then the last one was episode 844, 2016. So I don't know exactly what episode this was, guys, but safe to say this was over a decade ago, if not 13 years ago. So, yeah, Bitcoiner hasn't been on Joe Rogan for a long time. Now, what is interesting, and I think, I don't want to use Nico's buried the lead here, but what is interesting is when Andreas said this and we were all getting into Bitcoin and we were all watching Bitcoin content, there wasn't that much Bitcoin content at the time. When Andreas said this, like Nico just said a minute ago, it was like one of those aha moments for us now, a decade later. It's so obvious. We're like, oh, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, that's exactly how things work. At least if you're a Bitcoiner. If you talk to an average everyday person, they don't understand that, all of the world's money basically goes through corporations. No money is peer-to-peer. They don't even know what peer-to-peer is unless you explain it like, yeah, if you hand cash to someone. Now, I do have someone on Rumble, bless his heart, JJ, you know who you are. I wonder if he's in there today. I don't think he's in there today, but the Rumble chat knows him. He's one of the reigning fiat maxis on Rumble, but he watches Simply Bitcoin every single day. And he always says the same thing. It's like they're trying to... yeah, we have a guy.
He is a fiat maxi on Rumble.
Yeah, he's a cash maxi. But he hangs out on Rumble with us every single day, basically. And we always get me, the Rumble chat, versus JJ. It's like 20 versus 1, basically. And he's always saying, cash, like they want to take away cash. Bitcoin is just digital currency like every other thing. And every one of us in the chat always says something on the lines of, our money already is digital, bro. Like, okay, cool. You can physically hand off cash. Yes, physically handing cash is more private than, say, a public blockchain, a public ledger that everyone can see. But with that comes the fact that you are losing purchasing power, like, very quickly. We lost 10% in the last year in dollars. So, yeah, if you're storing cash, maybe it's more private, but you can't save your way out of it. Like you're losing purchasing power. And we always say one of two things. Like I just said, our money's already digital. And then the other one's usually like, we live in a digital world. Money is headed into the digital realm. And Andreas was saying this 10, 13 years ago, essentially outlining where we are. So in hindsight, looking back, it is a bit prophetic. Yes, Andreas is kind of, pulled back from the limelight. Maybe it's because the Bitcoin content has gotten so good. Maybe it's because, the whole shitcoin rabbit hole that he went down and the Mastering Ethereum book or whatever. But suffice to say, without Andreas, we wouldn't be here. I remember when I got into Bitcoin in 2017, he was the guy that I watched that orange pilled me. I heard about Bitcoin before. And then just when I was ready to get into Bitcoin, I literally watched one Andreas clip and sat there for like an hour afterwards, just rewatching every other video. And that was like the very early days for me, is just watching Andreas Antonopoulis videos on YouTube to try to understand what this Bitcoin thing was. At the time, again, it was a perspective that I never really thought about. Now we've gotten to a point where everything it's so obvious what is going on. It's so obvious that everything is digitally tracked. It's so obvious that, everything is surveilled. The social media, is potentially heading into a social credit score. It's so obvious now that the money, or rather the powers that be, want to launch a CBDC. They're actively talking about it themselves. And so now you sit here, and if that binary choice is true, what Andreas is saying, that look, we're heading digital. The money is digital already. It's going to go digital. Now, the only choice you really have is, do you want to use, JP Morgan corporate coin, or, European Central Bank coin, or do you want to use a money that they can't control, aka Bitcoin? Those are pretty much the choices. Or even further, if you're a shitcoiner, if you're out there and you're a crypto casino guy, it's like, do you want to use a coin that is run by a corporation that is its own digital creation, that they printed their own money out of thin air? Or do you want to use something that no one controls, that there is no corporation behind? Those are literally the only two choices. And it is interesting that Andreas did end up kind of going into the shitcoin kind of route a little bit. You could argue that he was just covering, cool technology, in it for the tech, all that stuff. But that choice is still the same choice. It's either a corporate coin or it is Bitcoin, or it's an institution state coin or it is Bitcoin. Those are literally the only two choices you have right now. So, yes, if you are a cash maxi and you're trying to use cash because it's more private, hey, there's a time and a place for that, I think. I don't think cash is going away for a while.
Did you say that entire bit just for the dude on Rumble?
No. That was just to I argue with him every single day. JJ knows.
Where is this dude on Rumble?
He's not on here yet, but see, shout out to JJ.
Where is he?
He's not on here today. He's not in here today.
You missed the show where Opti's.
I'm shouting him out, dude. He's famous today.
Even the Rumble people know who you're talking about,
dude. Of course, they hang out with him every single day. They're literally battling him every single day. He's our reigning cash maxi.
Anyways, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, we got some zaps over on Nostr. Appreciate the Rumble audience. And let's get to the culture segment. We're going to be right back in just a bit. Before we do that, I do want to give a shout out, guys, to the largest Bitcoin conference on planet Earth. Simply Bitcoin will be making an appearance, and it's going to be awesome. We went pretty hard last year. We're going to go pretty hard this year. You guys are definitely not going to want to miss it. And of course, what are we talking about? We are talking about Bitcoin 2026 in Las Vegas, Nevada, the biggest Bitcoin conference of the year. I consider it Bitcoin Super Bowl week. It's April 27th through the 29th at the Venetian Hotel. You want to get your tickets quickly because the prices do go up. If you use promo code SIMPLY, you get 10% off your tickets. Again, April 27th through the 29th of 2026 at the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Confirmed speakers so far include Michael Saylor, David Bailey, Arthur Hayes, Mike Belshi, Peter McCormack, Brent Johnson, and many, many more. You guys don't want to miss the biggest Bitcoin celebration of the year, the Bitcoin Super Bowl week, as I call it. Bitcoin 2026, Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your tickets to Bitcoin 2026. The Simply Bitcoin team will be there. We hope to see you guys on the conference floor. See you guys at Bitcoin 2026. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. We have tons to cover. We're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. All right, everybody, we are back. Go for it.
Wow, that was such a I wasn't ready for that. That was short. Okay. Look, I was talking about this earlier in the show. The idea that the FUD It's starting to grow. You know, the chorus of FUD is starting to grow. And recently there is some evolution of the FUD. Like right now, we've had the quantum computing cracking Bitcoin FUD, which is like all the rage right now. We have the standard Bitcoin's a Ponzi, tulip mania stuff. We have Bitcoin's crashing to zero type stuff. We have the new files released, thus the creators of Bitcoin FUD going on. So you're seeing all the FUD happen. And in the early days, literally where Simply Bitcoin was like birthed out of, we used to counter all of the shitcoin FUD. That's like where we earned our stripes. That's where we sharpened our metaphorical blades here. That's what we came out of. That was our culture. But we are starting to see new rounds of FUD being created, and I think it's only going to increase if the Bitcoin price does drop more. If we have a prolonged bear market, the chorus of FUD of haters is going to continue to go up. Well, I wouldn't say it's a new FUD line, but I think we have a good example of what usually happens, or rather, who are the people that are spreading the FUD. And this is why now, maybe it's because I'm getting older, maybe I'm slightly maturing a little bit, but I fundamentally just ignore all the FUD at this point. It's like you see it. It is what it is, like whatever. Let's look at more productive things. Let's try to figure out what's going to be a good show for you guys. Let's try to understand what's going on in the macro markets, what's going on with Bitcoin. That's what I try to do now. In the past, it used to wholly consume me. I used to battle it. I used to, do massive tweet threads to counter the FUD. Now we've gotten to a point where I really don't even think that that's beneficial to Streisand affect the FUD. But I'm going to do a little bit of that on today's show because this is a pretty good example of really looking at who the source is to this FUD, and then you can really make your own opinion about it. But most people don't really have the time. They'll just see a headline and like that's the end of the story. Like I even had my brother text me and my cousin text me like, yo, what's this headline about, this guy being the real creator of Bitcoin? I'm like, bro, like, all right. Anyways, I say all that to say, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Financial Times, aka what we've been calling the Fiat Times for forever, dropped this over the weekend. And it goes, "Good morning, Asia. While you were sleeping, one of our most read articles was this opinion piece about Bitcoin's worst crash since 2022. Ever since its creation, Bitcoin has been on a journey that will end splattered on the ground," writes Jemima Kelly. And I got a screenshot here. Opinion: Bitcoin is still about $70,000 too hot. It's a provocative headline. Maybe if you weren't a hardcore obsessed Bitcoiner, you would read this and be like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't buy Bitcoin. Such a good idea that I didn't get caught up in the hype. It is going to, as the picture shows, splatter on the ground. Well, shouts out to our boy Walker. Nico looks at me crazy. Nico's looking at me crazy. Here is Walker, and I have Francis, which one of the most hardcore Bitcoiners. I love Francis. Haven't seen him in a while. Here's Walker's take on it. He goes, "The same person who just wrote the headline changing Financial Times, Fiat Times article about how Bitcoin is going to zero was bear tweeting about Bitcoin when it was $300. After Bitcoin's recent quote unquote crash, it's up 23,000%. Recent crash. All right, dude, I'll drink some water. I'll drink some water.
This is what you get for making fun of my
wow,
reading.
you literally, all right, tries to dunk on me, can't even speak English. Okay, sorry. I had saliva in my mouth. Anyways, after Bitcoin's recent crash, it's up 23,000% from $300 to $70K. Good reminder that people who consistently hate on Bitcoin are often just mad that they were aware of Bitcoin years ago but failed to buy. Another good example is, of course, Peter Schiff. Now, Francis goes a little harder. And in the context of all the FUD you're seeing right now from all of the, every side, let's just do every side, from old quote unquote Bitcoiners to Fiat Times maxis. I think Francis, super hardcore, Bitcoiner really hits the nail on the head. So here's Francis, and I might need to censor a little bit. But here's Francis. He goes, every bear market, the losers who didn't buy Bitcoin during the previous bear market when Bitcoin was 5 times cheaper crawl out of their bitterness caves to tell you that, quote, Bitcoin isn't like it used to be. And Bitcoiners are this or that. Or even Bitcoin has failed and Bitcoin is dead. Instead of seizing the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at a low price like any rational person would. These are not rational creatures. They are highly emotional ones. They seize the opportunity to drag you down to their level so they can feel justified for having once again been wrong about Bitcoin. Often they've been hearing about it for more than 10 years. They are not looking for freedom, nor individual sovereignty, nor improvements of their condition. They are looking for emotional validation, comfort, the hollow and fleeting feeling of not being as stupid as they thought. Know that during bull markets, their self-esteem is completely crushed and they take their revenge when the price drops. They expose their intellectual and mental weakness for everyone to see. They cannot stand the relentless optimism of Bitcoiners. They are addicted to their doomer mentality and their cynicism. It is the pinnacle of mediocrity. They are inconsequential people. They are even more unbearable than those who finally bought Bitcoin at the top and regret it, and make sure you know it. Incapable of handling risk and volatility. It happens to everyone. It's cyclical in the end. They don't care about you. They just want to use you as a means to comfort themselves in their insecurity and to feel less pathetic. Don't let them. Since we are in a 4-month bear market so far, and I'm sure some of the old heads in the chat, you know, if you guys are unks like me now, you look at all this stuff and you're just like, it simply doesn't pass through the mind filter. You're just like, yeah, okay, on to the next thing. But it does seem, looking at the chat, again, I hang out with you guys in the chat every day. Some people are still new to this FUD game. Some people are still new to this propaganda. And I don't necessarily want to be just look at who is writing this stuff, because that's, you know, second order thinking, and a lot of people don't have that. But usually, as a blank heuristic here, anyone that is out there right now hating on Bitcoin, you could pretty much put them in these categories. They either miss Bitcoin, they're bitter that they didn't buy Bitcoin, or they're incentivized to essentially lie about Bitcoin, or their jobs are based on, you know, fiat economics. Most of the FUD that has been circulating in the last couple of weeks, you can plainly ignore. Or, you know, the recent one, like they were Bitcoiners, but they forked off on Bcash, and now they're like, I told you, we were right, Bitcoin's been hijacked, when in reality, they're the ones that were basically either they didn't know we're hijacking or they were lying to everyone. So I think at times like this, we don't know where the bear market's going to go. We don't know how long it's going to be. We don't know where the price is going to go. But part of the culture segment is obviously arming you with information to go out there and either disregard this information, or you can go in the trenches and earn, you know, your stripes right now. But for the most part, all the FUD that you see is either old FUD that is being recycled, it's been debunked, and now people just think it's a good time to talk about it because Bitcoin's down from all-time high. Again, the people that usually hate on Bitcoin, they've just been wrong about Bitcoin. And now is their you know, moment in time where they could be, I told you Bitcoin was going to zero. So Jemima Kelly really wants to say, you know, Bitcoin is $70,000 too high. It's not going to zero. All the Bitcoin haters are all the same. They're just mad they didn't buy Bitcoin. And now they have that sunk cost fallacy where they're like, I should have bought it a long time ago. I'm not going to buy it now because I know right when I buy it, it's going to crash. Hey, just earn your keep and buy some Bitcoin. It's okay. It's fine. So these people are twinks. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I might look small on the camera, but
Opti's an Aztec warrior.
Yeah. But anyways, right. Nico, let's reminisce a little bit. But actually, I want you to reminisce a little bit. I'm forcing this on you. When we got in Bitcoin, you know, the 2018 trenches.
You mean when it was?
Do you remember those
volatile?
days? You remember the 2018 trenches when we would battle people on Twitter?
It was the good old days, dude. It was the good old days. Those were, you know, those are some of my best memories in Bitcoin, bro. You know, like things have gotten a little bit quieter. Bitcoin has grown up, And, you know, even having Beauty on the other day, you know, on the show, dude, like Beauty on and us used to go hard in the paint, and, you know,
we're old and crusty now.
He had to hold back a little bit. And then just looking back on like my rants from back in the day, like they were militant AF. You know, so it was a different era.
Rip Nico Jones.
It was a different era. But you know, it's just part of the course, man. Like,
yeah, someone else, dude, the youngins out there, the Gen Zers out there, they need to take up the baton and be militant, so us unks and boomers can chill out.
Oh man. All right, everybody, that's the show for today. If you guys enjoyed the show for February 10th, 2026, make sure to smash that like button and consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. And of course, we'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.